Welcome to part 12, everyone. As always, I am so pleased you made time to join me on this shared adventure. I think things are heating up here. Like with the two past installments, it is possible that tomorrow's installment may be delayed by up to 24 hours. Having said that, I am happy to report that that did not happen today, and today's installment is nearly 3.5 pages. Enjoy! This story heavily uses a trope known as the unreliable narrator. I understand that some people may not know what this means or how to recognize it. I will explain. At different parts of the story, one may notice that these parts are told from a certain point of view. This point of view is not necessarily reliable. This results in the ideas expressed being potentially different from the character's observations. Here's a hint. When the reader is told one thing and the characters then observe another, one can generally assume that this is an instance of the narrator being misinformed. The good thing is that this results in some pleasant surprises. The bad thing is that if you, for example, assume that an observably ignorant character such as the captain is knowledgeable on all things intergalactic, you may be confused until you are given a chance to see the bigger picture. I suggest you carefully weigh these possibilities before you comment. Steven stepped around the fourth and final crewman, a crumpled and bloody heap thanks to Ginta's devastating mule kick. She wasn't the biggest creature on the ship, but that wasn't saying much when almost everyone else aboard stood one half to double his height. He suspected that many of the inhabitants aboard were from low-gravity worlds and that had something to do with it. Even after having spent so long in zero-G, this place still made him feel unnaturally light on his feet. At around 155 centimeters at her middle shoulders, Ginta's lower profile appeared similar to a full-grown buck reindeer. From her middle shoulders to her upper shoulders, she might have been an androgynous human of average adult size. Her head could be compared to that of a mule deer with a forehead, but with 6 tiny horns in place of antlers. She sported a short coat of fur over every millimeter of her body, with small, fine hairs as a lower layer and longer coarse hairs as an upper layer. Her coloration ran the gamut from light brown to dark brown, interspersed with darker spots, and fading to tannish white on her chest, underside, and rear. She, like everyone but he and Arenes, wore no clothes nor hint of clothes. Instead, she opted to wear a very human-like backpack on her upper half and a pocketed harness on her lower. Unlike when he had noticed his predator friend with her torn undershirt, the doctor very clearly intended to be naked. It looked appropriate, actually, given the fur already providing her with sufficient coverage. He almost felt like one needed to have bare skin to even have the option of being in the nude. "Glad to see you again, Doctor," said Steven, patting her lower shoulder as he hurried from the cargo hold into the adjoining corridor. It was then that he noticed Arenes had yet to follow. He turned back to find her crouched in the shadows of the open hold, still holding onto the corpse of her assailant. "I need a moment," she said. "It's too bright to see out there. My eyes will need time to adjust." "Okay, we'll wait then," Steven replied with a nod. "We don't have that kind of time," said Ginta. "Maybe a minute or two to get to the command deck, tops. It's the only deck Anticton won't expose to vacuum to kill us." Steven helped his crouching companion to her feet. "I'll guide you until you can see," he said. "No, my gentleman. That will only slow you dash. Climb on my back," called Ginta. "Now, are you sure, physician?" Arenes asked wearily, getting to her feet. "I did not think most creatures here could dash." "Yes, move it." Arenes indicated her most recent meal. "May I bring my new friend? For the love of, yes. Keep eating, damn it, but... Oof, we have to move." Before the doctor had finished speaking, Arenes had leapt onto her lower horizontal back with her new friend, still in hand. As they ran together, Steven heard his companion talking to their rescuer. "Thank you for the instructions," said Arenes. "We didn't know what they meant at first, but we figured it out in short order. In truth, Stephen hadn't figured a damn thing out. Arenes must have known that there was nothing in the darts from the moment they hit. She had experience with them, after all. As for them being filled with a lethal concoction, he supposed it hadn't taken her that long to figure out, either. Without his companion, he would have spent a good 10 minutes looking for a way to counteract the non-existent poison. He should have known this was all just part of the doctor's plan. He had a pretty good guess that she had also been responsible for turning back on their translators. He hadn't even realized they'd been deactivated until the night beast started talking. "And thank you for not eating me," replied the doctor. "I wasn't sure you would know we were all on the same side." "I wanted to kill the guards first," Arenes said with a shrug. "And you made it clear that you had prepared the faulty sleep elixir. Why help us, though? Aside from the obvious." "There is no aside," said the other woman. "I am a slave here and I would rather not be. As for the rest, she asked me for help when I was brought on board and examined," interrupted Stephen. "I knew immediately that you'd be able to help," Ginta said to him, before turning her attention to the woman riding on her back. "If you want, you can throw your leftovers off me. They're leaking onto my fur. I brought Stephen's meat rations for you. They're in my pack." "How considerate of you, physician," the other woman said, rooting through her pack, retrieving one of the entrees he'd set aside in his cell. It was beef brisket, and he was very jealous. She didn't, he noticed, drop her half-finished crewman. The doctor pointed to an open doorway ahead of them and to the left. "Here, up this ramp. Next level." A thought occurred to him. "Doc, we've got to stop by the cells amidships." "No, there isn't time, Stephen," she said. "Bullshit," he said. "We have to try." "What about your oath, doctor?" "To whom?" she huffed, holding onto the doctor with her arms around her chest. Arenes leaned over the other woman's upper shoulders. "I would be regarded a stain on my order if we didn't free those people," she growled. "You are guilty of cowardice, alchemist, if you fail to aid them. Do you know what that means?" "It means we're going to free them," Ginta said with a sigh. "Idiots, both of you. This way." They started up the ramp and exited onto the third deck where the slave quarters were located. Stephen hadn't seen this part of the ship on his tour, but recognized a prison when he saw one. At the far end, a group of crewmen were already releasing the last of the slaves from their cells. It wasn't often that the enemy did his job for him, but he wouldn't look a gift horse in the mouth. He saw two of the crew pointing their rifles at the slaves now pouring into the hallway. "Kill those three and you all go free," one of them cried. "Ah, that's why," mumbled Stephen. "They don't know who you are," said Ginta. "They won't know what you two are capable of. Please don't hurt them." "Me? I don't think we have much of a choice," said Stephen, charging behind the cover of a cell's doorframe. He aimed his rifle at one of the armed slavers and pulled the trigger. It fell, a large smoking hole appearing in his chest just before it toppled out of sight. With some consternation, he noted that killing the crewman had done nothing to quell the charging mob. He tried killing another one and succeeded just as easily. He briefly considered that his enemies were unusually slow. Even allowing for the normal dilating perception of time in combat, they were slow to move, slow to draw a bead on him, and slow to react. He heard a deafening sound, something between a lion's roar and what a Hollywood says a velociraptor sounded like. From the corner of his eye, he saw the source, Arenes standing at her full height on Ginta's lower back, a hand on the Centauroid's head to stable herself. With her other, she tightly held her crewman meal by its dangling spinal column. Everyone paused in their tracks at the harsh war cry. All eyes were on the Dame Commander. Stephen took the opportunity to shoot another armed crewman in the stomach. "I am the Night Beast," Arenes screamed, throwing the corpse hard. It soared down the hall with such force that when it hit the ground it burst into a splattering shower of vital fluids, bone, and gore. "You will leave this place now, or I will kill every last one of you." Now that had routed the charging slave mob. "To the escape pods." Stephen added, "Go. That way." Arenes looked at him and cocked an eyebrow. He shrugged. So did she. Either she had no idea what an escape pod was, which was more than likely, or she didn't appreciate him ruining her moment, or both. The man made a mental note to send a distress signal for those pods, or release a NAV buoy, or otherwise let someone know where they were. Arenes' ploy that really wasn't a ploy at all had worked perfectly. The mob of slaves and the handful of remaining crewmen had dispersed in every single direction but the one that took them near him and his companions. He had to admit she was quite intimidating. In the dark of that hold, just after their rescue, while chewing on half a crewman, she was genuinely terrifying. In the abstract, she was a lot like the worst alien space horrors that cinema had to offer. It was more than just her bearing and behavior, as his arm could attest. And he had booped her snoot, daring her to eat him. Her vision must have adjusted sufficiently and her strength returned, as she wasted no further time in jumping down from Ginta's back and joining him at the other woman's side. "2 more decks till we're safe," the Dear Tor said.